Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We've got a couple of things to discuss. Everybody's going crazy over that meeting between President Trump and Mamdani. There was a shooting in Chicago. The violence continues to get worse. And I want to discuss a couple of the topics as well. But first, let's talk about Mamdani's meeting with President Trump. Let's listen to what our language expert says about the meeting itself.
Watching the body language and their facial expressions, I mean, literally every muscle on their face, and there's 52 of them, and I know how to decode every single one. There wasn't anything there that was alarming. A furrowed eyebrow or a tense lowered eyelid, or maybe even jaw biting. Something, right? But there wasn't any.
In other words, the meeting was a success. I told you guys that Mamdani was eloquent, he was energetic, he was vibrant, he's a great speaker, a great communicator. And when he went to Washington, he went there with the interests of the New Yorkers on hand. So in other words, it was a productive meeting. They did what politicians are supposed to do, which is engage in bipartisan conversation to establish policies that make everybody's life better. That is all Mamdani went there to do. He put the needs of New Yorkers ahead of everything else, and he went there with the intent to try to get as much as he could from President Trump when it came to support. Now let's listen to a little bit more of what the language expert had to say.
So the other thing is that I noticed is that there was a sense of just relaxedness. I mean, President Trump did not show any sort of grimacing or raised eyebrows or dismissiveness. You know, oftentimes he'll do that. So we have, that part of his personality. But there seemed to be a genuine friendship that actually built from this meeting. And also, too, the kind of attaboys and the pats on the back are just friendships. Those are friendship taps. So consistently throughout that entire piece that I reviewed, there was nothing that gave me pause of the two of them not feeling that they have a relationship they can build from now and move on and start to get some work done.
In other words, they were able to find common ground when it came to making everybody's life better, right? In New York City. I mean, people are perplexed by this, and I think they are because there hasn't been anybody from the Democratic Party that has been willing to engage in political conversations about policies. Everything today is about making President Trump look bad. Everything today is about Trump derangement syndrome. It's about attacking the president instead of attacking his policies. Mamdani flipped the script. He went over there to discuss policies, to discuss how he can make New Yorkers' lives better. And because of that, the meeting was a success. I think we've all been so far removed from cordial political conversations. And I think that's the real reason why everybody's just confused and doesn't know how to react.
Ron, what happened here? What happened here? Because there is no human being that was expecting what we saw yesterday. Right. I think including the president. He seemed fluffed and charmed.
Honestly, I don't think President Trump felt fluffed or charmed. I think he was just genuinely surprised by the fact that Mamdani went over there to discuss politics, to discuss how to make New Yorkers' lives better. And I think the president hasn't seen that in 8 years? Hey, Mr. President, somebody said this about you. Or, hey, Mr. President, you said this about that individual. That's all it's been for the last 8 years. But it doesn't matter if you're on the right or on the left. The politicians are always going to do everything they can to undermine the other party. Listen to what Stefanik had to say about the meeting between President Trump and Mamdani.
A lot of people have noted, political observers, that one of the political casualties of today was Elise Stefanik, the New York member of Congress who has announced she will be running against you for governor. And part of the reason is that she has, out of the gate, basically tried to tie you to Zohran Mamdani. She's also keeps calling him a jihadist, which I personally find really gross, bigoted, and objectionable. He was asked about that, and he swatted it away. He said he doesn't seem that way. I want to read you her statement today after the meeting. We all want New York City to succeed, but we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. If he walks like a jihadist, if he talks like a jihadist, if he campaigns like a jihadist, if he supports jihadists, he's a jihadist, and he's Kathy Hochul's jihadist. Do you have a response to that?
She's full of shit. I'm sorry. I mean, she really is. I mean, this is such an extreme position. Such an extreme position. She's even more extreme than Donald Trump. I didn't think that was possible. But she's succeeded in proving that today. She's out-mega'd Donald Trump, the founder of the MAGA movement. So I hope she's proud of herself, continuing to spew hateful thoughts and deeds and trying to create more violence in our political rhetoric. I think it's disgusting. It's abhorrent, but that's who she is. And people are seeing this, and even the president realize that's even too far for him.
If you have proof that he is a jihadist, proof, like hard concrete proof that he's a jihadist, put that out there. Unless you have that proof, we need to move away from utilizing those types of terms because those are very racist and bigoted terms. So now let's get to the good part where the socialists turn on Mamdani. This had to be expected. You cannot go into the Lion's Den, into the Oval Office to talk to the President of the United States who's on the opposing party and not get some flack for it. So listen to what happened with the socialists.
Talk about transparency. We've been talking all morning about the Oval Office meeting between Zohran Mamdani and President Trump.
Highly transparent.
And I'll tell you who's being pretty transparent about it are the socialists and what they think. We talked about, we wanted to bring this to you. So the World Socialist website says this: Zohran Mamdani's first acts as mayor-elect seek Trump meeting, keep NYPD Commissioner Tisch, and protect Hakeem Jeffries. Inside, it says less than 3 weeks after Democratic Socialists of America member Zohran Mamdani won the New York City mayoral election, garnering over 1 million votes, the mayor-elect is quickly revealing himself to be nothing more than a standard capitalist politician. In the last 72 hours, it has been revealed that Mamdani reached out to Trump for a meeting, publicly pleaded for and accepted as police commissioner, current police chief Jessica Tisch, and lobbied against a socialist challenge to New York Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And that, by the way, was written the day before the meeting. Imagine what they think now.
You know, Mamdani's a pretty smart guy. I think he expected that type of pushback. I'm not sure if he expected it to be that hard, but I think he expected that type of pushback. I told you guys, everybody's going to push back, whether it's the left or it's the right. I think the right expected the meeting to be terrible because I'm sure they wanted to keep attacking Mamdani. I'm sure the left expected the meeting to be terrible because they wanted to keep attacking President Trump. But no side is going to get what they wanted because the meeting was great. But listen to former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Listen to what he said about the meeting itself.
I'm curious what you thought of that appearance in the Oval Office. And if they just focus on what's good for New York City, could they create an effective working relationship?
Alex, I thought it was a very good day for Mamdani, and I thought it was a day where Trump was really showing his weakness, honestly. I think the whole reason he suddenly wanted that meeting, you know, Mamdani's team reached out. You don't expect the President of the United States to be available instantly. And it was so clear that Trump wanted the spectacle, wanted the opportunity to take attention off the Epstein files and all the other problems he's having, which are profound at this point. And he got the spectacle, but I actually think he looked weak.
I don't think the president looked weak at all. He didn't look weak. I think he looked like a politician, which President Trump doesn't look like often. I think he looked like a negotiator. And I think he understands that it's in his best interest if he wants to continue to push his agenda. If he wants to continue to push that, he's going to need the mayor's help. And remember, President Trump is from New York. They have something in common, which is they want to fix New York. They want to clean up the city. So I think Mayor de Blasio is completely wrong. But I think everybody's opinion is that Zohran Mamdani is going to change once he has an opportunity to think about the meeting itself. So listen to his latest comments to see if he changed his opinion.
But did you expect it to be so chummy? What was going through your head when you were standing there?
You know, I thought again and again about what it would mean for New Yorkers if we could establish a productive relationship that would focus on the issues that those New Yorkers stay up late at night thinking about. Because so often in our politics, we try and tell people what they should be worried about, what they should be concerned about. But when you actually ask New Yorkers and you listen to them, you hear it come back to the issues that animated not just the conversation the president and I had with the press after our meeting, but frankly, in the meeting itself. It was a conversation where we spoke about the need to deliver on this agenda. And I appreciated that when the president, when we had that meeting, it wasn't just in the Oval Office. He also took me into the cabinet room. And there we were looking at portraits of presidents of years gone by. And we admired a portrait of FDR. And in many ways, when I think about the candidacy that we've put forward, it looks to Fiorello LaGuardia as the greatest mayor in New York City history. You can't tell the story of LaGuardia without telling the story of FDR and the story of a relationship with the federal government that finally delivered at the scale of the crisis it was facing.
It sounds like his opinion is exactly the same. He is focused on working with President Trump to make New Yorkers' lives better. That is exactly what he got elected to do. And he continues focused on that. When people ask him, are you the face of the Democratic Party? What does he say? I'm focused on New York right now. I am the mayor-elect of New York. And that is what I'm focused on. Mamdani knows that that's going to come later. If he does a great job for the city of New York, being a congressman, being a senator, that is going to happen. And let me tell you, I disagree with most of his policies. I mean, socialism doesn't work in this country. But the fact that he is the way that he is, he's got a very bright future in the Democratic Party if he wants it. And now let's move on to our next story, which is the politician saying to disobey legal orders. Now, I've told you guys before, this message is moot. It is moot. It doesn't mean anything simply because they already know not to obey legal orders. But we all know why the politicians did it. But when they're asked why they said that, and if President Trump is giving illegal orders, they can't answer that question. Listen to this.
Here's what White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said about your video.
They're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful.
Is that an accurate statement?
So I think the reason we put that statement out is because the sheer number of, frankly, young officers who are coming to us and saying, I just am not sure. What do I do? You know, I'm in Southcom and I'm involved in the National Guard. I'm just not sure. What do I do? And I think, look, you don't have to take my word for it. We've had report after report of legal officer, JAG officers coming forward and saying, look, I push back on this. I'm not sure that this is legal. There is such things as illegal orders. That's why it's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, going back to Nuremberg, right? And it's a totally benign statement. And if the president is concerned about it, then he should stay deeply within the law. But I think it's important to know it's not hypothetical.
Yes, it's in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and every service member knows that. Everybody understands what the Democrats were trying to do here. They were trying to undermine the authority of the President of the United States as the Commander-in-Chief. The military itself was turned into a social experiment by the previous administration. President Trump reversed a lot of those policies, and the military is now back to doing what it's supposed to do: fight wars, win wars. And if you think the military is hurting just because of President Trump and the way that he is, it's not. Recruiting is at record levels right now. As a matter of fact, the Marine Corps has elevated its standards, and it's not even sending anybody to boot camp right now unless you have a specific score. They're pushing those people to the back of the line. So that means the standards are being raised, which is great, which means that our military is going to be better prepared for our adversaries in the future. You know, she refused to state whether President Trump has given an illegal order. So she's given another opportunity to answer that question. Here it is right here.
His last administration asked his Secretary of Defense and his chairman of the Joint Chiefs to, quote, shoot at their legs at unarmed protesters in front of the White House that he wanted moved.
Actually, I know you're talking about Mark Esper's book. He didn't exactly say that. He said the president suggested that, but they were never ordered to do that.
And he got out of the Oval Office quickly so that he wasn't told to actually do it. And I give him a lot of credit for that. I give him a lot of credit.
So let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders?
To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
She's talking about what the president is doing in Venezuela. Everything he's doing right now in Venezuela is within his legal authority. It is. It's within his legal authority. And if it wasn't within his legal authority, the Democrats would have sued. They would have done something to stop the actions that he's taking right now. Everything that he's doing right now is within his power as commander-in-chief. Look, like I told you before, during Biden's administration, the military was turned into a social experiment. And I know there were a lot of people, military officers, that were put in positions of power that didn't belong there. So until those people are taken out of those positions and we get back to war fighting and focusing on war fighting and not social experiments, then there's going to be that small faction of the military that's going to look to undermine the president's orders. But I'm confident that the Secretary of War is going to weed all those people out, and the military is going to get back to its original mission, which is fighting and winning wars. So let's go ahead and move on to our next story, which is violence in Chicago. Violence is currently ravaging the streets of Chicago. Take a look at what happened.
Find out more details about what led up to a shooting on State Street. It happened just before 10 and just steps away from our State Street studios last night. Some of our coworkers heard the shots ring out. Police say just before 10, they spotted a large group on the sidewalk when gunfire broke out and then the group scattered. The victims, ranging in age from 13 to 17, were rushed to nearby hospitals. Most of the victims are listed in good condition and they're expected to recover.
And right after that unfortunate incident, another incident happened.
We got a female shot right here, y'all. 2 teenagers shot downtown on State Street. It's one right here on the ground. It's a female. And then over here by the Chicago Theater, they have a male shot over here. It's a teenager. This is a teen trend, y'all. Come in this live, share this live, and check on y'all kids.
But Mayor Johnson continues to insist that violence is not an issue in his city. Remember, not that long ago, a woman was lit on fire in Chicago as well.
Story out of Chicago. A man with a long, violent criminal history is facing a terrorism charge after police say he set a woman on fire on a train. Shanley Painter joins us now with more. And Shanley, we saw this take place in New York and now Chicago.
Right, Carly. So police say the 26-year-old victim was riding the Blue Line train in Chicago around 9 p.m. when this man, 50-year-old Lawrence Reed, allegedly approached her from behind, removed the cap from a bottle of liquid, and then poured it all over the victim's head and body. The woman attempted to fight off Reed, and then she ran, but Reed eventually caught up with her. Police say that after igniting the bottle and then he dropped it, he used it to ignite the bottle and then set the victim on fire.
And I think you guys remember what his answer was when he was asked about that incident, right? He said, this is an isolated incident, insinuating that violence in Chicago is not running rampant, that it is not ravaging the streets of Chicago. And we all know that violence is ravaging the streets of Chicago. We're talking about a mayor that has a 26 to 31% approval rating. Some polls have him in single digits. So why is this man still there? And how is he any good for Chicago? Okay, guys, that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, stay balanced.